Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thank you for checking out the newest episode of the Skyward Cast. I think we're on episode 17 right now. It's been a minute. Joey Craig here with my co-host, Delvin Cox. What's going on?
Say peace to cats who rock knocknologists, street astrologists, light up the mic, God knowledges, fly joints that carry the points. Cool out. I can't mess that one up.
Hey.
It's hard to recite Raekwon lyrics because he raps in such a unique way.
He's Wu-Tang, right?
You just didn't fucking ask that question, did you?
I'm just. Hey,
of course, Raekwon is Wu-Tang.
That was before my time, so I gotta make sure.
Oh my god! They just did a big documentary on Wu-Tang and everything.
I know Ghostface. I know RZA.
Raekwon's one of the main members of Wu-Tang.
Look, if you never listen to him, that's not gonna matter. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of where I'm at with it. I've listened to maybe two songs. Person.
You're a terrible
Cream,
person.
And
he's the one who raps on Cream.
Hey,
he's the one who raps on Cream.
I don't know all the dudes by name. Like, hey, now I know four. Who are the other ones?
All the members of Wu-Tang?
Yeah.
Let me see if I can remember them all. Ghostface, RZA, Jizza, Inspector Deck, Raekwon, You God, Old Dirty Bastard, Method Man, and Master Killer.
Really? I thought there was like 6.
No. That's just the main members I just named. I forgot Capadonna, even though he's a main member. He's not really a main member. There's a lot of members of Wu-Tang.
Are these actual members, or are they like honorary?
Yes, they're actual members of the Wu-Tang. Like if you buy a Wu-Tang album, all of them will be heard on the album.
Okay. I mean, because you can still have people in the crew, but they're not really.
Those like the Wu-Tang documentary that just came out, all those are specifically in the documentary as the main members of the group.
Okay.
Now there are other members of the group, but they're I want to call them Wu affiliates. Like like Sons of Man and Wu Syndicate and stuff like that, but the main members are the ones I just named.
So originally when it came out, there was just 6.
No.
Right.
No. It was still 9, I think, if I'm correct.
I thought those were just like, I don't know. Hey, whatever.
There were 9. Yeah, everybody I named was the original members of Wu-Tang.
Hey, I don't know anything about him anyway, so it's not like I can say.
I want to make sure, but I'm quite sure those are all the original members.
Like when you're talking about all those dudes, and then because I know like some dudes, I was watching videos and people were having debates on whether this guy was actually a member of like Vlad TV interviews.
Fuck
Vlad.
Vlad's full of shit.
I'm not saying Vlad is a good dude. I'm saying they would have somebody on there. I think they actually had one of the dudes that was asking him like, so what's the deal? Like, are you like, people were questioning whether you were an official member of Wu-Tang or not, and blah, blah. They'd be having conversations. I never watch a Vlad TV interview because of Vlad. I watch it because of the person that he's talking to. I don't care about Vlad. I don't like Vlad.
I don't like Vlad either.
He has a whack attitude, and he just has this real, he has a vibe about him. But it is what it is.
Vlad,
it makes for
culture
interesting
vulture
interviews
in the extreme sense of the word. He gets these artists on there, has them say this wild shit and incriminate themselves. I can't respect him for that. There's a lot of things that I've seen Vlad do. I'm like, fuck this. I can't listen to this dude.
I don't like it.
These artists. And it bothers me even more the fact that artists still go to him.
Because they know he's worth numbers. Like, that's the point. If you know how to play the game, then it is what it is. It's like the same thing as if you went to go have a sit down with Wendy Williams. Like she's trash too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But it's different with her.
How? They're both trash. And they're both trying to get you to say some trash that might get you in trouble. So you just know how to.
Because at least Wendy Williams is straight up. She tells you off the gate, this is what I do. It's not like she tries to sugarcoat it. It's not like she tries to hide it. Vlad kind of does it in a way where he's kind of coercing you to say something crazy. Like, hey, yeah, man, talk about that, man. It's not really like Wendy Williams. She'll bring the tea up to you, as they call it, and want you to comment on it. You don't have to comment on Wendy Williams. Wendy Williams will bring it to you like, hey, this is what I heard. Yeah. If you want to talk about it, we don't want to talk about it, but this is that, this is this and that. We know what that's about. You know, and not saying that she's accurate and good in doing that, but at least she's straightforward with what she does.
So I can, respecting her for the fact that she's just upfront trash. Okay, and Vlad, he tries to be your friend and, tries to, but so that just means he behaves like most of the other people in media. They're all trying to get you to say something that you shouldn't say because it brings in numbers, and he can throw that on the title. Just like if you were doing a news interview, they want something so that they can throw it on the headlines. They can put it on whatever to get more views and more clicks and whatever. For them, it's all the same. It's all all the same game. So, I mean, he's just playing it, getting it how he can. I'm not saying that's okay, but I mean, people point a lot of fingers at him like he's doing something that other people aren't.
Yeah, I see that.
A lot of people are trash. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so I throw them all in the same bucket.
That's one of the problems I had with DJ Academics. But I give him a little bit of a pass because DJ Academics seems more like a fan, like a kid almost. And he gets like caught up in the fame of these artists. And he gets in situations that he don't know damn well he shouldn't be into.
DJ Academics, people get on him mainly because of his numbers. Like they feel like because of the eyes that are on him that he should be a little more respectful, like when you have that sort of reach. But he gives his opinion in the same way anybody else that's tweeting or that's on Instagram or any average person that's firing off their opinion. So, I mean,
he is very immature.
Okay, he's immature, but what I'm saying is he's not doing anything that anyone else like isn't doing.
I agree.
But it's just the fact that he has, so many eyes on him. It's like, man, you shouldn't be speaking on stuff that you don't understand. But you go online, you see the same opinions. You go search on Twitter, you go look on Instagram, same people giving their opinions. They just don't have that reach. So people get on him because of that. But so he's just an average person giving his opinion. So in some cases, I feel like you just need to back off because it's really not that deep. It's just another person giving their opinion. I mean, it's not like he really has any power over. I mean, he has a certain level of influence. He has,
in a sense, he does.
To a point because of his numbers, you know what I'm saying? And I guess he has a fan base somewhat, but his fan base is not really a fan base. Like people, they really come to see him because it's like watching a really interesting accident. You know what I'm saying? Like his fans, he doesn't get respect like that. I mean,
I don't think he gets respect. Like I said, he's childish, but the problem is what he does is people come on his platform, like the whole thing with him and Tekashi 6ix9ine and all that stuff that was going on. They were saying Tekashi was going to saying incriminating stuff, and people kept telling him like, "Hey, you might need to chill off on this stuff," and having him on here saying the things he's saying because the fans will start investigating you.
Well, I guess to that point, yeah. I mean, but hey, if he wants to associate with that kind of stuff, like all you can do is give people warnings. But if they don't want to listen, it is what it is. Just like Tekashi, you know what I'm saying? People were telling him like, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. But at the end of the day, if these are adults making adult decisions, like it is what it is. You get what you get. So, I don't know. But I don't know.
Speaking of adults making adult
they're all
decisions,
just playing the game.
I am going to do this segue because it makes the most sense to do it right now. Did you hear about the whole Jussie Smollett situation?
Man, I'm not thinking about no Jussie Smollett. That fool.
No, I'm saying
I forgot about that fool.
This is the reason why I'm talking about it, because I think it's important to talk about this whole issue in terms of what it means. I want to ask you: do you think it's okay?
Okay, what was the new update on his situation?
Okay, so as it was previously discussed, the charges for Jussie Smollett was dropped. Mm-hmm. and he basically had his file sealed. So Chicago police decided to go out and have his file unsealed and released so the public can read everything about his case. And so as of today, his file has been unsealed and is released to public. So you can read every detail of the case and everything that they saw, basically.
To a point, I mean, it's if they weren't doing it for the grimy reasons that they're doing it, like obviously it's like they're salty because they feel like they lost. You know what I'm saying? So it's like seems like, I mean, I don't know, just the way they were reacting before when I was still keeping track of this whole story, it just seemed like they were salty. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, I can't believe this one got out of our grasp. You know, so it seems like this is just kind of a revenge. And then you got other people saying like, this is crazy. Like the Chicago Police Department is going so hard on him. Like y'all don't have a whole bunch of dirt going on. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
Anyway,
that's my thoughts. That's my thoughts exactly. My problem with this whole situation is when you do stuff like this, it makes you look bad. Because honestly speaking, if the Chicago police would have dropped it, hey, he's off, and left it alone, we wouldn't be talking about this story anymore at all. This would have been long, not even thought about. People would have forgotten the name Jesse Smollett. But the fact that they keep bringing it up and they're like building this vendetta against him, it almost makes you have sympathy for him. I'm not saying I agree with anything he did. I think he's a piece of shit. But in the same vein, I feel like if he wasn't who he was, would you guys go this hard to try to humiliate him? At some point, how much money is it costing to do all these things? So they're talking about all this. They're using the excuse in the veil that, oh, we used all this taxpayers' money to looking up this case, which they really didn't. They have to do that with every case. It's not like it costs a whole bunch of taxpayer money to look up stuff on the case, to look up cameras and things like that. Mm-hmm. They're using that veil to say, oh, we do want our money back for all the manpower we did investigating this case. But we're going to spend more money to basically embarrass him and try to prove your point that, well, he did do something, but this, because they're putting more effort into the case after it's apparently been closed for now than they did when the case happened.
Well, this is them reacting. It's like somebody that's always the tough guy that finally gets beat up. You know what I'm saying? And he's going to try to build up his reputation however he can. You know what I'm saying? Because he feels like it's been scarred. So they're like, okay, well, we can't win this way, so we got to come back another way. Because Chicago PD has a nice record for being grimy. So it's like, and they usually always come out on top. And it's like they finally took a L, and it's like, to feel like they lost and there's nothing that they could have done about it. I guess because the money that was put, the people that were on his side went way above what they could do. Because he got off of that, even though he really shouldn't have. But
he probably shouldn't have. I'm going to say he probably shouldn't have got off. But then when I was reading more into the case, as heinous as the act was, the law actually doesn't give you too much fines for that type of stuff. It's basically like, well, community. It's basically a falsified criminal report. It's like community service, pay a fine. Worst case scenario, you do a year in jail.
Okay, but he got none of that.
No, he paid a fine. He did community service and paid a fine.
When? In that short period?
That's why they dropped it. That's why they dropped the whole case. He did. Basically, what they had him do was he did community hours while the case was going on, and he paid like a certain sum of money, like basically his bail money. They got to keep that. Then they just dropped the charges.
I don't know. The whole thing is just kind of petty at this point, and it is what it is. They need to do exactly like they would do with their one of their cops. If they got off on doing a crime that they obviously committed, they would just say let it go, the justice system has decided just let it be. So let his case be the same way they would theirs. Yes. But of course they don't want to do that because on this case they're on the losing side. So it's just trash. The whole thing is completely trash.
Yeah, it's a situation where you don't really like people on either side, but the people on one side are so flagrant with what they're doing. It's like, fuck, I can't root for you guys. Fuck you guys too.
Definitely. It's just so obvious. But yeah. So that was that.
Oh, yeah, you agreed with me. So it wasn't much to talk about what you think. Yeah, it's bullshit. Yeah, it's not like it's much to really add to it.
Oh, well, I guess.
So, Death Stranding. What do you think? November 8th. Did you expect it to come so soon?
No, I didn't. But I mean, I wasn't really checking for it like that because I don't really have a PS4. And plus, I've been kind of on this thing where I'm not really like modern games. I just haven't really been checking for it like that. I've been really wanting to play classics. So if something that's been on my list
for that, because all they do is re-releasing the same shit.
Well, some of the stuff I'm actually interested in, and other stuff is
I love the Switch is the only system where I don't mind a re-release of a game.
If it's released the right way. Not like The World Ends With You or something like that?
Yeah, where it was all where the controls were janky.
Yeah, because it's supposed to have a touch screen and that was a hot mess. So yeah, in that case, no. I still want to play that game, but I'm gonna wait until I get a DS. I want a DS.
It's good on Switch. It's not that
DSi.
bad.
But I want to experience it the way it's supposed to be experienced. The way that people like it became a classic for a reason. And if the people that loved it bought it again on Switch and said this is trash, I would never want to experience it that way. Even though it might still be good, the story might be interesting. I'll just wait until I get a DS and I'll play it that way. I'm telling you, dozens of games on DS. Like, I was just thinking about that. Like, the more we get deeper into this whole, this is kind of going off, but like, the more we get deeper into this whole, gaming is changing, going more digital, streaming is trying to take over, and like the quality of games overall is just kind of not all. There's still some classics out there, but just the whole vibe in the gaming industry is just at a low for me right now. So I'm kind of looking the other way at the thousands of other games that I still haven't been able to play that I would like to on Super Nintendo, on N64, PlayStation, and all those, So
I was feeling like that before Days Gone came out. There was not many games that really like grabbed my attention. And like I was like, well, this is boring. Like even Sekiro. Like, this is cool, but this is not something I see myself wanting to play every day to get to the end of the story. And it just so happened that Days Gone came out, and it's another game, A Plague's Tale, I think it's called.
Mm-hmm.
Very fascinating game. Both of them kind of drugged me back in the game, and I wish I could have played more of them, but with me starting the whole Patreon thing and stuff like that, I've been so tied up and busy with that stuff, didn't really have time to play games, but those two games grabbed my attention immediately when I started playing them.
Mm-hmm.
And this is another one I'm trying to play now. It's that VR game, Blood and Truth.
Oh yeah, I heard about that. I saw a couple of reviews come across the timeline. I didn't check it out though. Is that a PSVR or is it other platforms too?
Yeah, it's good, but I think my one of my Move controllers is messed up.
So the Move controllers, you can use the ones from the PS3, right? It's all the same thing, right?
Yeah, it's the same controller.
Okay.
They need to fix that, by the way. They need to come up with some updated Move controllers like PS4/PS5 Move controllers. Because this shit, while they're good, they're not very dependable.
Like durability is like they fall apart, or
that's one thing. Another thing is they eventually get to the point where they stop working right. Especially because you got to remember the Move controllers is last console generation's controller, and I don't think they made more of them like to that expensive degree.
So they had to put out more.
Yeah, but not like they haven't updated that system yet. It's still the same Move controller that came out like 10 years ago.
Yeah, they should have come out with a version 2, and I'm sure they will for PS5. But I guess at this point they were really just kind of dipping, a toe in the VR waters to kind of see how it's gonna go. You know what I'm saying? And it did pretty well. So now I guess for the PS5 they'll say, we're gonna double up on it. We're gonna really go hard. But they said that all that stuff is gonna be backwards compatible, right? So your VR headset from PS4 will work with PS5. So, but I'm sure they're going to come out with another version because they're going to want people to upgrade to newer hardware. So it's going to come. So they'll give you new controllers and all that crap too.
I hope they fix that because the PlayStation VR, the way it sets up, is a pain in the ass. Like,
what do you mean?
You have to hook it up. One, if you have to play PlayStation VR hooked up to your PlayStation, you can't run HDR. Like not even when you're in VR. If you're not in VR, you can't play the HDR games.
I told you to go get a splitter, man.
Yeah, but I don't want to go behind that TV and unhook. I got a lot of shit hooked on my TV. I'm gonna call a spade a spade. There's a lot of shit hooked on. I got 3 splitters. I want to say hooked on my TV.
Well, why don't you just go get one big splitter?
How big do the splitters come?
Nah, you can go. The ones with the remotes. It's like a what do you call it, a switch? So you route all of those cables into the back of it, and then you get a remote for it. So I guess you would put labels on it. So your PS4 will be number 1, and this console will be number 2, and this, and then you can switch through it easy like that.
But how many HDMI ports they usually come with? The big ones you're talking about?
Man, the expensive ones. The expensive ones can come with some numbers on them. I could look it up real quick. But I know that the super cheap ones are like 4, you know what I'm saying? But of course you can get ones. I've seen ones that were a couple $100, but those were like the smart ones and they got the interface. But those ones were actually for like not really for gaming. I think you can hook gaming consoles to it, but they're more like for entertainment. So it takes all of the stuff that you would watch on different devices and kind of puts it in one neat interface. So you don't have to go to this device for this, Apple TV for this, Amazon Fire for whatever, and PlayStation. It just throws it all in one interface. That's like cool. like $200.
No, the one I use, it has 3, I want to say. But shit, I need one that has like 6 or 5. Because I have the PS4, the Xbox One, the Switch. Then I have the what is it called? The Nintendo NES Mini, the Super NES Mini, and the PlayStation 1 mini console, and I have something else. I feel like I'm forgetting something. But that's 6 right there.
They got the 5. They got the 5-port switch for like $30, man, on Amazon.
Well, I cop that.
4K compatible and all that stuff. Got 4.5 out of 5 stars.
That's like a good deal. I have to look at that when we get off the podcast.
Yeah, man. And then so what I'm thinking is, but what I was thinking is not even just like routing it through that box, but it's like, how you'll have it'll be a splitter, so you'll plug one end into one side and then you'll have 2 ports over there just to make it real simple. So you'd have 2 HDMI cables coming out the other end, plug one into one port and then the other for the other. I mean, I'd have to look at it to figure out exactly how you would work it, but there has to be a workaround for that, because
I'll look into it this week.
Yeah, if you do not have display options, like I'm sure that's gonna be in VR version 2. You're probably gonna get like some type of workaround for that. But
well, let me ask you this
that though, like real quick.
Plays VR?
Yeah, like do you experience like nausea and stuff like that? I was hearing about that. Some people can't really take it.
It's a trick to not experience it. Like you can set up most games, have when you go into settings, you can adjust it so you don't get nauseous when you play.
Mm-hmm.
And once you do that, I did that with a couple of games, and I had a blast doing it. Like when you walk in those games and you don't get nauseous, it is an incredible feeling of walking around this world that you can't that you're basically living. It's cool. It's really cool to have experienced that. There's a couple of games. I'm trying to think what game I played. It's two that come to my mind that I can think of right now that I can't think of the name of them, but they were incredible. My time with them were so great because I felt like I was in that world. One is the one is you play it with the move gun.
It's sort of like sci-fi, right?
Yes.
It's right on the tip of my tongue. I know it, but I can't.
I'm trying to look it up right now while we're talking because I want to get the name of this one. But it's a really cool game when you're like stuck on this planet. Farpoint.
Yeah, I heard about that. I saw that. I wanted to get VR just for that, but I mean, well, I don't even have a PS4 yet, so that's that's not about to happen right now. Hey, didn't No Man's Sky get a VR mode?
Yes, I haven't played it yet, but I heard it's great.
Wait, you have No Man's Sky?
Yes, I have No Man's Sky.
And you have VR, and you haven't tried it. What is this?
Haven't tried, like I said, I've been so busy. I haven't played many of the things I have. I have so many games I have just not played yet that that's sitting still in the package because I'm just busy as heck with trying to start up the Patreon and figure out what I want to put on the Patreon and how to do the Patreon and keep stuff updated on the Patreon. This doesn't seem like it's hard to do because it's not, but it's time consuming and it's kind of like,
oh no, I know that trash is not easy. You know, I just. And then plus you got like 10,000 other podcasts on you, you know, aside from managing that. And then I know that can't be easy, man.
Especially since we haven't talked about it since I've started the Patreon up. For those who know, I started the Patreon up the last couple of weeks, but started up recording shows for the Patreon, which is fun. But then as of lately, I've been a guest on a lot of podcasts. Like leading up to the Patreon, it was like every week, at least 2 people were asking me on their podcast.
Then maybe you need to scale that back a little bit so you don't get run down.
Yeah, I'm starting to scale it back now because I got to start recording more shows for the Patreon. I got to record some episodes of the Fire Brigade. I got to record some more episodes of basically all the Patreon exclusive shows. I got to record more episodes for because June's right around the corner, and we got to have episodes ready. Like. Fortunately for me, one of the shows that I have on there is Delvin Cox Presents, and that's really easy to do because all it is me doing an intro for a podcast that I enjoy, getting an exclusive episode from them, putting on the Patreon with my intro and outro, and it's a podcast ready for people to listen to. It's a different podcast. 9 times out of 10, I'm not going to be on the podcast, but it's just something new for people to listen to and enjoy and find a new way to find a podcast you might like.
Mm-hmm.
And the cool thing about Delvin Cox Presents is it's on the Patreon, but you don't have to be a Patreon member to listen to that show.
That's nice.
Because it's all about you finding a new podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm reaching out to different podcasters like, hey, give me a show for Delvin Cox Presents. It'd be a good look for you. I think it's a cool idea, and I want to bring more people to different podcasts. When I say uniting the culture through diversity, I mean it. And I think that's one of the ways I can do it. Like, it's more things I want to do with the Patreon in terms of being more active with people and getting more people into it. The more people get into it, I think the more fun it's going to be in terms of us having, like, one of the things I want to do, and I want to turn this to a Delvin Cox Patreon special, but I want to do Patreon member of the month. Well, each month we highlight a person on the Patreon no matter what tier it is, and tell you why this person is cool.
Yeah, that sounds nice. Yeah, why don't you, just go ahead and give the people a rundown real quick of what your Patreon is, what is, what are you offering, why you decided to start it up. I mean, you still got 10 minutes before we cut it. We're already talking about it. You might as well run it down.
Yeah, okay, might as well talk about it. Well, the Patreon, the whole idea of the Patreon is I want to expand upon the Delvin Cox experience. I want to make it a bigger thing. I want to bring it out to more people. So one of the things I think of doing that will be getting the Patreon and bringing more people in that way, because I feel like with the money I get from Patreon, building the podcast would be easier and cool. I want to do a lot of cool things. Like one of the things I want to do with it is, once it gets to that level, I want to every 3 months just give out a game console.
So
anybody, once it gets to that level, every 3 months, let's like I'm gonna tell you the level. If I get $300 a month, right? That third month, everything I'll make on that Patreon is going towards a game console, and I'm giving it away. Because it's not about the money. It's about building the community, having fun with that community, and doing awesome things with that community.
Ooh.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it sounds crazy to be like, damn, that's $300 every 3 months you're just going to give away. But I think it'll be worth it.
It is nice, though. I mean, you might want to keep a little bit for yourself, But, no, but I definitely, that is a really nice thing to do. But I mean, yeah, I understand you saying once it gets to that level.
Yeah, it has to get to that level first for us to get to that part of the fun part of it. But another thing, one of the reasons, like I told Chalfie, one of the reasons why I started the Fire Brigade is because that's one of the podcasts on the Patreon where I highlight my friends. That show is not about me. That's why I don't even host that show. It's about the people who are around me, the people who have always been there for me, like you, like Chalfie, like Erica, like Derek. You guys, it's your time to shine on that show so people can find you. And so maybe a year down the line, we could be opening up your guys' Patreons and getting people to follow your Patreons and people to get into your communities. I feel like if we keep building these communities, after a while, we'll just take over everything. And that's what it's all about. I think, I always say this, it's very important to promote and support independent podcasts because the big names already have their audience. Joe Budden's audience not going nowhere. Joe Rogan's audience is not going anywhere. So why us smaller podcasts can't get our own audiences and build up on that and support ourselves through that? Because the way I look at it is, I want to get to that point where a few years down the line, I can be like, you know what? We're going to do a big old podcast convention. And I'm going to get Joy Craig to do it with me. I'm going to get Chalfie to do it with me. I'm going to get Eric and her podcast to do it. I'm going to get Derek and his podcast to do it. I'm going to get PSVG to do it with him. And we have our own big convention, and we're the stars of it. We don't have to reach out to other big name podcasters because we are the ones who built the community. And I think, and for Flat, the Kind of Funny Gets, that's one of the things they got right in terms of they built that community on their own.
Yeah.
And they made that name for themselves. So when people hear Kind of Funny, they know what they're getting and they know they support it for that or don't support it for that. And they've done a very good job of that. So if they can do that, why can't we do it for ourselves?
Oh yeah, definitely, man. I mean, that sounds like a really cool mission, man. Like just to have that kind of like the vision. You know what I'm saying? I can definitely see that happening. Even if the convention, that's that's a little, a ways away. But
yeah,
even if some steps in between, then you could have like a couple smaller meetups, until you reach that level of a convention. But yeah, even with that, man, like everything, it sounds real cool, man. Just the whole everything, your reasoning behind it. Yeah. Of course, I wish you a bunch. I wish you great success with all that, man. And that's why I had to support.
I'm glad you did, man. I really appreciate that because I know the first days of doing it, I was terrified. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it whatsoever. I was terrified, like, yo, what if this doesn't make nothing? Because you kind of like, it's one thing when people listen to your podcast and enjoy your podcast. There's another thing when people come out the pockets to support your podcast, whether it's $1, $10, or whatever it is. It shows commitment.
Yeah.
And it's a lot harder to get people to do that as opposed to listen to something for free. So I was terrified. I was terrified. I think, like, I watched that Patreon all that day.
Oh, you just sat there and tortured yourself, man. The best thing to do would have probably just been to set it up and, let it go. I mean, if you got some notifications, when they came through, that's one thing, but torturing yourself.
Yeah, I literally tortured myself that day, and I was watching it all day and terrified, and I was like, man, I got a lot of content on there. I hope people like the content that's on there. Because I think when it first started, it was like 5 shows, 5 videos, like a lot of content.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if people don't like this content, man, this is gonna flop. And I was terrified. And it was scary feeling, but I'm glad that it's working out so far. People are starting to find it. And I want to keep building on that. I know the mission just doesn't stop yet. I have to keep going. I have to keep building on it. I got to pick myself up and keep going until I reach that level where I want to reach it.
Oh, definitely, man. And you're just starting. You got the right vision. You got the content. You know what I'm saying? It's just gonna take a little more pushing. I'm always gonna keep on pushing it on my timeline. Everyone else all your other friends are gonna keep on pushing and supporting, and it's gonna work out, man. It just takes a little bit of time, and it's definitely gonna get there.
Yeah, I like that people are excited about. I like people who are on the shows are excited about. Like one of the shows I do is the UK to USA podcast, the USA to UK podcast. With
do a billion podcasts, man.
That's a Patreon exclusive one. It's with my guy Ben, who's from the UK, and he likes American culture and stuff like that. And he never thought about doing a podcast, but one of his things that he does is he's a cosplayer. He does this badass Ghost Rider cosplay where he looks just like Ghost Rider from the comic books. It's so cool. But the thing about the podcast doing it with him is we compare and contrast the differences between the US and the UK. And it's fascinating. And he loves doing the podcast. It's almost like, do you remember the first time you started doing a podcast?
Yeah.
You remember that feeling you get?
Fear? Yeah. No, go ahead.
But that excitement you get, he has this certain excitement about him, knowing that he's doing a podcast and he's not doing it alone, and that he's like, damn, this is awesome. Like, I'm doing a podcast with you, and you're like, and it's good. And like, I guess it's cool for him because he does. Fortunately for him, he doesn't have to go through the whole thing that we went through of, we're doing a podcast. We got 10 listens. That's not something he has to go through.
Mm-hmm.
Because what I do is already kind of established.
Mm-hmm.
So he's coming in and getting that love for podcasting. And it's awesome to see that.
Yeah. I'm going to definitely have to check that out. Is that up?
Yeah, the UK to USA podcast is definitely up.
So run down all the perks and all the podcast, the exclusive content, because I'm still learning about it. I didn't even know that was a podcast on the Patreon. I mean, I knew of the Fire Brigade podcast, which everyone should go listen to.
That's up now. That's up.
The
Fire Brigade's up there, which is, I guess you want to call it the flagship show, where it's all of us talking together and stuff like that, having a conversation. It's me, Joey Craig, of course, Chalfie's the host, Derek and Erica. That's one podcast. Then there's Retrospect Podcast, which is a podcast where each month I sit down and talk with somebody about an important event, and I can't talk now. An important event in history, and we talk about what it meant to them when they saw it and what it meant to them as of today. And it doesn't have to necessarily be something like 9/11 or something like that. It could be small events. It could be sporting events. It could be anything in history that you remember that you kind of had an affinity for, or that captivated your heart and your mind, and what it meant to you then and what it means to you now. Like, Bobby Pauls, aka Nintendo Guru, he was talking about the Tyson Buster Douglas fight. He broke that down on how that fight went down and what it meant to him to watch that fight in real time. And he told a story about his grandfather and how his grandfather loved boxing and how they bonded over that and stuff like that. So that's what's so cool about that podcast, because you're getting different people on every month and different opinions about things we saw in life. Like another one I'm going to record for that episode. I'm recording another episode of that podcast with somebody. His name is Ben also, and we're going to talk about he wants to talk about the death of Princess Diana and what that meant to him, seeing that as a kid to him. I think that's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, it's gonna be an intense episode. I mean, yeah. I didn't really. I felt the energy of it more than I really understood what was going on when I was a kid. You know what I'm saying? Because I was still really young, and that was a period of time where I was still sheltered from a lot of stuff, fortunately. So I got to, kind of experience life, through the rose-colored glasses. So, once everything started to come off was around 2000, of course, 2001, then boom, I get the full blast of everything. But yeah, man, it's gonna be a deep and intense episode.
Yeah, and then you got the UK to US podcast, or the USA to UK podcast. I keep saying it backwards with Ben, aka Ghostwriter UK, where we're talking about differences between the US and the United States. And the first episode was about soul food, how the US has soul food and the UK has their weird things that they have that they eat. It's just a compare and contrast. And it's real cool hearing the differences between two countries that are so similar, and how they think some of the things that we do is weird, and how we think some of the things they do is really weird. Like they call cookies biscuits.
That's the most. That messes
their cookies. Yeah, they call cookies biscuits, and our biscuits are like something else. I forgot what he said it is, but they don't call our biscuits biscuits.
Don't they? Okay, so what's a cookie for them? Is a cookie is a biscuit, right?
It's something like that. It's weird. And on top of that, their restaurants, like if you go to a KFC, they don't give you biscuits.
What do they give you?
Nothing.
What?
Yeah.
And then what was the other thing? It was their fries are chips. What the heck?
Yeah, their fries are chips. If I'm correct, they put gravy on their fries.
Isn't that's Canadian, right? Isn't that like poutine?
I think Canada does it too. We talk about it on the episode. We get deep into it on the episode. And I talk about how soul food is something that African Americans eat here, and the history of soul food, and why do we eat those type of things? Because spoilers, slavery. That was the shit they didn't want to eat, so they gave it to the slaves. And it's a real interesting conversation. And we just recorded the second episode of that podcast, and we talk about the difference between our news outlets and their news outlets. And that's really fascinating. And I found out something I did not know at all. I was shocked to find out. Hey, if you want to find that out, you got to listen to the episode of the podcast.
Exactly. I was just about to say that.
I'm not giving that away, but it's something that shocked the hell out of me that I didn't know was a thing.
Hey, now I need to go listen to it.
Yeah. You won't believe it. In terms of their media.
Hang on, of course I have this urge to be like, well, like, what is it? But
I'll tell you offline. But you're gonna hear the episode anyways. You're gonna hear what it is. But
yeah, definitely.
And I think I already told you about the last podcast on there. It was Delvin Cox Presents. So those are the main podcasts. Like if you pay $1, you get all the exclusive podcasts, of course.
That's a lot of content for $1.
Yeah, you get 4+ podcasts every month. And when I say 4+, I mean because those are not the only podcasts I'm doing. I'm also doing like exclusive podcasts. Any extra podcast I do that month goes on the Patreon. Like I'm going to record a Game of Thrones spoiler cast with Erica. That goes on the Patreon, exclusive to the Patreon. Any movie reviews we do, exclusive on the Patreon, audio and video. If you pay $1, you get the audio version of that.
A crazy deal, man.
Yeah,
everybody should
$5 to get the video version and all the other video content. But it's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of cool stuff on there that I think people should just go check out because it's awesome, and I'm putting my heart into it.
Definitely, and I always say whenever I do the episode, I'm gonna make show notes, and the show notes would be cool if I actually made blog posts about all these dang episodes like I used to. But then lately I've been slipping, and so I posted on social media. You know, I always I put the episode on YouTube, and I put it on Twitter, which I don't even put it on Facebook like I used to. But my Facebook is more personal, so I mean, I do share it with my people. It's just they don't really listen to it like that. Like the first time I ever had a family member listen to it was like they were surprised. You're like, oh my God, I didn't know you do a podcast. And so she was kind of a frequent listener for a second, and then that kind of fell off. So it was like, what's the point of that? But one of these, I'm definitely gonna get back on my blog stuff, and I'll put the link to your Patreon on there under the episode. That's all I was saying, basically.
Man. Definitely. Thank you.
Oh, no problem, man.
Is there anything else we got to talk about?
I think that is. I know there's something, but I can't think of it right now. A
couple of things. You want to talk about the Game Pass being on PC?
Oh, yeah, definitely. We can hit that real quick.
So you got an Xbox, right? You got an Xbox One, if I'm correct.
Yeah, got it.
So what do you think about Game Pass going to PC?
I think it's a good deal if it's all together. I mean, Microsoft is kind of on this Xbox experience across platform,
which I don't like, by the way.
I don't like it, but it is what it is, and I kind of understand why they did it, because they're failing. If you keep that experience locked to the failing platform, then that means if the Xbox console fails, then the brand sinks with it. So they had to kind of take it off and put it off on other platforms to save it. So I get it.
Really, they're failing, but they're not really failing.
They're third place now. Didn't the Switch passed it up, right?
I think so, but they're failing, but they're not really failing because they're profitable.
Look, they're profitable, but
by a lot.
But look, I understand, like, to the average company, right? If they were making what Microsoft is making off Xbox, that would be a good deal. But look, they don't know how things can change. You know what I'm saying? If things didn't kind of balance out after that, Xbox could have been like Dreamcast. You know what I'm saying? It could have plateaued around. Didn't that mess plateau around like 10 million, 11 million?
But Xbox is way past that.
To a point. They're big in the UK, surprisingly.
Xbox is like, they haven't given out numbers, but they say Xbox numbers are between 35 and like 50 to 60 million units sold, which is pretty good. It's pretty respectable.
All right. And the fact that the Switch did that in about a year and some change is not, that's like 2 years. 2 years now. Compared to when did that second come out? It's like the late 2013. That's a mess.
I can't believe defend the Xbox, but that's not a fair comparison because the Switch came out hot. The Switch is probably one of the most popular consoles ever.
So what I'm saying is compared to Xbox's position in the market when it comes to, compared to the other two, it's not failing, but right now it's kind of
Not
shaky.
even close to failing. Like it's not. I wouldn't even say shaky. I think they're not where they need to be at because the original 360 sold so much. So when you look at it as compared to that, you be like, oh, okay, I can see where you can have those problems. But it's not. This is not a situation like WWE kicking WCW's ass where Xbox is going to go out of business.
My God.
That's not going to happen.
I don't know what the heck. Come on, no wrestling references when it comes to
Joey. You do it with wrestling.
I don't know about that trash. Look, but I hear you. But the thing is it was such an emergency. Like they had to basically sell Xboxes for nothing and throw in 3 games to get to where they at right now. So if they didn't do that, it would have, the numbers would have been way lower. They were selling them for $199 plus 3 games out at Black Friday. That was a hot deal. Like you can't beat that. You know what I'm saying? The fact that they had to do that though, and this was years ago, like just really showed how bad they were doing at that point. And then Game Pass came out as an emergency. Like that was another emergency tactic. It's like we are failing. We need something else to bring people on board. Okay, here's 100 games for $10 a month. They're doing everything they can to bring people on board. And another part of that was having to rethink what Xbox is. And so it's now a family of devices versus a single console, which I don't really care for as much, especially with the fact that with how they're doing things, because the Xbox experience on PC is actually starting to get way better than the Xbox experience on console. So I think they're so focused on looking toward the future of Xbox that they're sort of leaving the console in the dust.
I think you hit it right on the head right there. I think as of right now, their goal is far different from what PlayStation's goal is. Their goal is looking toward the future in terms of, I'll be surprised, not this next console, the Xbox, whatever they're going to call it, not that one, but I'll be surprised if the one after that is an actual console, as opposed to something more like Game Pass with the Stadia or something like that, where you buy like a Fire Stick or something like that and you can connect it and just buy your games like that digitally. Because I think that's the way they're going.
Nah, that's too much of a shakeup. That's too much of a shakeup.
Not necessarily, like I said, not necessarily the next console, not the Xbox 3 or whatever you want to call it, but the one after that, I can see that happen.
I can see them coming out with as many devices as the people want. You know what I'm saying? If people are, I don't think people are going to be given. I don't think people are really going to buy into that whole idea of just streaming just yet. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people really don't have stable enough internet for that. We still got a lot of people that have data caps. So I'm saying it's hard enough for people to be able to download games and DLC. But imagine if you're constantly streaming the game. It's just never ending streaming. So I don't think that's really going to take on like that. I think for some people that are in the right position, they have the right internet. They really aren't, they don't need to have access to the digital file, or, you know what I'm saying? They don't need to have it local. Like, fine. Okay. That's going to be a big deal. But I think that's what the whole point of the Xbox family of devices is about, is just future proofing. So yes, they're going to stick with the console market, like the traditional console, for a while. And of course, the Xbox One S with no the digital only version was to kind of test it and see how people react to it, which it hasn't been that great so far. So I think they were sort of seeing like, okay, well, how deep are we into digital? Like, does the next Xbox really need to have a disk drive? So they're trying to see how that's going. It's not going so well. So obviously the next Xbox, the main console, is going to have a disk drive. But, so we're just going to see, a whole family of devices, but I don't see that happen. Even after the next one, I don't know. I mean, We'll see. We will see.
Think, spoilers for a few. I think they're going to announce their next Xbox at E3.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
And they're going to probably show that bad boy at E3.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons why Sony was like, nah, we'll skip E3 this year. Which to me makes sense.
Why would Sony avoid, unless they didn't have anything but they already put out information on the PS5. So it's
that's my point. They don't have I don't think they have their console ready to show. And if they go there and Xbox shows their console, that's going to be the highlight of the show.
Nah, they don't have to have the whole thing to show. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't even have to be available for demoing. All they have to do is show a freaking concept box with a concept controller, and they already showed the specs. Throw it together, show some what do you call that crap? Like some gameplay or what concepts of what they think might be coming. They did that before. They do the concept reel.
But I don't think Sony's ready to do that. I think Microsoft is. And I think, to be fair, I think Microsoft is more, they need to start getting ready to launch their console. They need to strike first. They need to strike first.
Definitely.
So I wouldn't be surprised if the new Xbox came out this year or maybe early next year, because they need, and I feel like they might strike either this year or early next year. And I can see PlayStation dropping in then PlayStation 5 summer or maybe fall next year, 2020.
Consoles are definitely coming next year. Like there's just no.
And I'm not ready for them to come. I can wait on it.
I'm not. I mean, just like I was telling you earlier, I'm already not worried about the games. You know what I'm saying? That are coming out right now. I'm not worried about spending money on some new hardware. The only reason I would really, unless they come out with some games between now and then, that really is like, I have to have that day one. You come out with a Jack 4, I'm getting a PS4 day one. There's just no question. Like that is a game I've been waiting for over a freaking decade. So I'd have to have it. But other than that, I don't think there's really anything that they can do to convince me to just be like, I need to have this. Unless but things can change. It's just there's not really that much out right now that's interesting. You know, we got a whole bunch of open world games. Stories are becoming repetitive. I think we're just kind of becoming numb, or I am at least. I'm hitting a point where I've seen it all and I've somewhat done it all in gaming. And creativity seems like it's at a low, and greed is just kind of taking over. You know what I mean? Fools are more focused on how they can charge us again after we already paid the initial $60 versus giving us a full and really interesting experience. And so that's another reason why gaming is just kind of at a low, because it's just the creativity is not going where it should. I mean, that's why certain games are getting canceled while others, you know, like what about that, you know, the Xbox, not the Xbox, the Star Wars game that Visceral was working on. Like the fact that they canceled that because they couldn't find a way to milk the consumer for more money. It didn't matter if that was going to be a award-winning experience that could have been on the level of like Uncharted or The Last of Us. It could have been next level. They weren't worried about that. They were just like, forget that. We don't care. If we can't find a way to throw in some microtransactions, we don't want it, scrap it.
I think there's more to that story than meets the eye.
Greed. Look,
I think greed plays a part into it.
It's not that complicated.
I think greed plays a part into it, definitely. I think that it's a little weird that they had all those Star Wars games announced relatively at the same time.
Like what?
Because when they were making that visceral Star Wars game, Fallen Order was still being made.
That's just them. That's them milking trash. But people milk stuff all the time.
Yeah, I think they bit off more than they could chew. I think they were trying to make a bunch of Star Wars games come out at one time. Then they realized, oh, all these games are too similar. They realized they started seeing the backlash from Battlefront, and they started saying like maybe we should fall back on some of this stuff. And feels like they did Amy Hennig dirty. That's the best way to describe it.
Of course. You put all that energy into a story, developing a story, trying to give people the best experience, and you're constantly hitting roadblocks because of greed. Now I hear you saying there might be more to the story, and there might just be, but from what I heard,
it's greed.
That's exactly. So
that's why they're in the predicament they're in right now. EA is not looking too good, to say the least.
And then how Anthem came out, and man, BioWare, like, that's so bad, man. People are just saying that you might as well just give up on them because it's like they're just not the same company. People, they're talking about, well, this person left, and all the people. I mean, I don't know the whole story. That's why I'm saying people said, and this is supposedly, because I don't know for sure, but supposedly a lot of the people that were responsible for the classics have left because of all the things that are going on. I mean, whether they left before just because, okay, the end of the project happened and now it's just their time to go, or it was just too frustrating because things were just chaotic and they went their own way. So now you got a bunch of new people working under the name of BioWare. So it's just literally not the same company. And that's why we're getting what we're getting. That plus there's a whole bunch of crunch time going on. You know what I'm saying? So they don't have much time to actually create the concept and really
develop
flesh it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a mess, man. That really disappoints me because Mass Effect is still one of those series that completely it was a whole new experience for me.
My favorite video game series of all time. It's my favorite video game series. I love that series.
It was amazing. Like I want to play it again, but I want to play it on I want to play it on PC, full graphics cranked up, create a new character, and just take my time and go and check out all the things that I didn't, get to see or didn't check out because I was trying to get from 2 to 3. You know what I'm saying? The fact that there's planets that I didn't go check out because I didn't make a different decision. People were asking for help. It's like, oh, can you help me? My father is on this planet. Please help me go down there and do some missions, full missions that I could have gone and I could have experienced, but I just didn't because of the decisions that I made in that game. And so my path was changed. Like that kind of stuff just like blows my mind that they were so into the game that all these, that creativity that created all these different paths. You know what I'm saying? That's deep, man. And the fact that all that is gone, such a disappointment. Damn. But it is what it is, man. What can you do? Hopefully they can kind of bounce back. I have no hope for Anthem.
No one does.
I have zero hope for Anthem, man. It was fun at first. Did you really jump into that?
Yeah, I did. It was okay.
It sort of had Mass Effect like mechanics with the combat. I think that's what got me because it still looked a little weird and jumpy, like the speed at which they were moving, and I didn't really care for it as much. I liked the flight. The flight was super fun. Just crazy to kind of hear that they almost cut that out. That mechanic almost didn't make it in. If that didn't make it in, that game would have been an absolute flop from day one. That's what kind of makes it like when you and your whole team, when you're hitting a corner, flying around a mountain, like that's one of those moments where you're like, okay, this is pretty freaking cool. I know it has its bugs, it has its issues. The combat is really freaking simple. Don't have that many weapons, there's bugs here and there, but this is a really cool freaking experience.
Yeah.
And if that would have been gone, it just would have lost everything that it had good. Well, pretty much everything.
I agree. All right.
Yeah.
We got to go. I'm going to get yelled at.
Erica can hold up.
No, she can't.
But yeah. All right, man. Well, it was nice. This was cool. We talked. This is the first podcast we had, the first Skyward Cast we had in like, dang, was like a month? Yeah. April. Dang, way too long. Yeah. We'll do this more often. But yeah, this was cool. So let's close it off. Thank you everyone for listening. If you enjoy the podcast, you listen on iTunes, please go on iTunes, give a rating and a comment or whatever that thing's called. If you're on YouTube, definitely give a thumbs up and subscribe so you can get and hit the bell so every time new stuff comes out on the channel, especially new podcast episodes, you will get a notification right away. And if you haven't, go check out Delvin's Patreon. You support what he does on any of his podcasts. Definitely go show some support to him on his Patreon. And thank you everyone for listening. We're out.
Peace. We're out.
Later.